Well, I've been involved for a number of years in Fleet Week, New York, which is when the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard bring ships into New York Harbor. And I've been doing that involved with events around the services. I'm a Marine myself, and so I started off having events for Marines who came into Fleet Week that were connected to friends of mine, and then they became friends of mine. I've been doing that for almost 20 years. And a few years ago, I met someone who was then the deputy commander of this organization called the Vietnam War Commemoration. It's an odd name, but it's run by the department under the Department of Defense. And the purpose of it is to celebrate Vietnam War veterans who were not treated well at the end of the Vietnam War or during the Vietnam War. Anybody who knows the history or was alive at the time knows that they were treated extremely badly. There were no parades, there was no compliments, it was quite the opposite. So in the process of getting to know those people, I learned about this program that was created for the specific purpose of recognizing and finally, after 50 years, thanking the veterans who had served and sacrificed, and of course thousands of who actually even gave their lives for their country. The government developed this program. It was actually signed into law. 2 presidents confirmed it, Obama and Trump. Trump created a National Vietnam War Veterans Day, a relatively unknown holiday on March 29th. And so I decided, after having been involved in one of these ceremonies myself, that we ought to have one in Chestertown, because the war in Vietnam, and a lot like the World War II, was town-centric. In other words, these people didn't come from the big cities. They came from the small towns across the country. And that was, if you wanted to find them, communicate with them, and thank them for their sacrifice, for being in service, then you had to go to the small towns to find them. One of the key aspects of this was the concept of inclusion. This is not just for veterans who served in country in Vietnam. It's for anybody who served during the period from November 1st, 1955 to May 15th, 1975. Because during that 20 years, almost 9 million men and women were in uniform, and you couldn't determine where you would be sent once you signed up. So you might have gone to Germany, you might have stayed in the United States, but you also could have sent to Vietnam, and about 3 million of those people did. And of course, we know several thousands of those people never came home. Personally, I went into the Marine Corps in 1966. I was not doing well in college and decided to take a year off, and I joined the Marine Corps Reserves. I became a helicopter crew chief, and I expected that I would be sent to Vietnam. And every month, as I read in the newspaper about all of the helicopters that were being shot down and the crews that were being killed, I expected to get orders. And for 6 years, I waited and never was. But during that period of time, almost 500,000 Marines, of that nearly 3 million people, 500,000 Marines were sent to Vietnam. I just didn't happen to be one of them. But I felt that it was important that we try our best in Chestertown and Kent County to reach out to those veterans that we could find and bring them out of their homes, and in some cases, dark closets that they had retreated into, which was unfortunate, a result of not just being in war, but also being treated that they had been, to come forth and say, I'm a veteran. The program is designed to attract and recognize anyone who served during that period of time in the uniform of an American military service, wherever they were sent in the world, however long they served. It doesn't matter. And so what we've done here in Chestertown, this will be the third year, is using the connections of the American Legions, Sumner Hall and the Grand Army of the Republic, the DAR, the town itself is involved, is to find those people who, veterans of that period, invite them to come on March 29th, which we did for the first 2 years, and we do again this year, and say, please come to this event. It'll be a military type event, and that is, it starts with the posting of a flag, the American flag. We're fortunate to have a color guard from the Marine Corps barracks in Washington, D.C., be coming again this year to present the colors, as they call it. We sing the national anthem. We have a prayer. We have a couple of talks from veterans to the veterans. And then we have the pinning ceremony, the presentation of a pin that's designed specifically for this purpose. We have this pin that was designed, can you see that? It was designed by the Department of Defense specifically for this purpose. It is made up of elements starting with an eagle in the middle and the elements of our national ensign, the American flag, around the outside. And on the back of it, because this is intended to be pinned close to your heart, it says, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your service and sacrifice. And this is presented personally to each one of the people that steps up from another veteran who pins that on them. In the last 10 years of this program, almost 4 million of those people have had that presentation. It's personal. People don't register their names to attend. We don't call them up by names, even if we know them. And we don't refer to them by names unless we're personal friends. It's really just representing the country and speaking to a veteran. We're sorry for the way that you were treated. We welcome you home now, 50 years later, and we won't ever forget your service.